typically you will die from exposure first, whether it's in the cold, the heat, the rain, fog, whatever. You should know how to find a way to insulate yourself, get warm, so you don't ultimately, die, if you will.
Yeah. What's up, guys? Welcome to Resilient, where we champion the pursuit of strength, courage, and adaptability in the face of adversity. Our guest today definitely fits that definition. Professional caveman, Marine Corps veteran, wilderness expert, author, educator. I mean, lots of titles. Donny Dust, welcome to the show, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. This is quite the honor.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I gotta say, I don't often find another like really strong beardsman, but bro, that's a solid beard. I know you keep it short for fear of it getting caught on fire, but that's a solid beard, man.
Oh, I appreciate it. It's one of those things where I think, like most people that were involved in the military or law enforcement, been tasked with shaving forever. Yeah. And it's like, as soon as you get out, you're like, it's just going to grow. I'm going to let it grow. Mine, unfortunately, turned white very quick, but I like to call it silver.
It's distinguished, bro.
It's distinguished. It's the silver sort of approach, despite it changing colors with every kind of adventure that I do. But it works out.
I love it.
Yours is just as phenomenal.
Thanks, bro. I'm trying, man. Have you heard I'm sure you maybe heard this, about the whole theory behind beards, how, they tested a clean shaven face with like a blow, and they tested a bearded face. And I think the shaved face, broke every time, but the bearded face only broke like 40% of the time. And so there's this theory that if you have a strong beard, then you probably have ancestors that were warriors that fought for a living.
I agree to that.
And I'm going to go ahead and agree to that one as well. So
no, I think there's truth to that. I've heard similar, stories and studies to that. And I can attest that when I was clean shaven in the Marine Corps, there was once a bar fight in Honolulu and I got one of my teeth knocked out. And then since then I've had not a lot of fights, but some punches to the face, and the beard definitely does.
Definitely cushions it. Yeah.
I'm all for it.
We have the commentators in my fights are always like, man, I wonder if that beard like softens the blow. I'm like, it does, bro. It definitely does.
It's science.
Yeah, science.
Don't want to get into it too much, but
that's right. Yeah. Man, I want to get into a lot. I want to get into, wilderness stuff, preparedness, survival. I want to get into that. But first, man, I'd love to just kind of like, who's Donny Dust? I want to get into your military career, but you grew up in Colorado. Is that correct? Or?
Yeah. Well, I was actually born in a little place called Detroit.
Okay.
That's Detroit. I just like to.
Bro, you got me good because I had no idea. Okay, cool.
No, you zhuzh it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I was actually born in Flint, Michigan, to my mother and father and two sisters. And we just spent a lot of time moving around. But eventually, when I was probably like 4 or 5, I wound up in Colorado and grew up in Colorado at a time when there was not a lot of people. It's basically like Wyoming today, if you will. So you could still, at 7, 8 years old, jump on your bike, ride to the creeks, catch crawfish, steal vegetables out of people's gardens, catch snakes, and you just kind of, roam around like a kid should roam around. And then, you grow up, and eventually I found myself in a place called Middletown, New Jersey. And that was a unique experience, but did 4 years of high school and wound up enlisting in the Marine Corps. And like most, young hard chargers, you want to join the infantry. And I joined the infantry. Since I was over 6 foot at that time, they kind of would put us on a big platoon, stack and column, all that sort of stuff. And they're like, all right, if you're taller than the man in front of you, step forward. And now everyone look left. If you're taller than that man, step forward. And eventually there's a group of guys that are all over 6 foot, and they're like, you're machine gunners. And we're like, we're cool. We don't know what that is, but it sounds awesome.
Go.
Like Animal Mother from Full Metal. So, joined the Corps, became a machine gunner, and just loved it, man. Loved, patrolling and shooting guns, taking them apart, just that whole kind of like Marine Corps experience. And then later on in my career in the military, I got recruited in the counterintelligence, human intelligence field, where my job was essentially to deny, detect, and deceive terrorism, espionage, sabotage, and subversion.
Look out, bro.
So you do that with human sources, different assets. You'd run assets based on where your mission was, what your requirements were, and with your, authorizations to do so. So whether it was the Middle East, Southeast Asia, CONUS, OCONUS, really just case by case. And then while I was in the Corps, I was married, had a couple kids, and then eventually left the military after a couple deployments. And I really just wanted to focus on being a dad, being present, having 2 sons, and being an influence in their life where they can rely on that father to be around and show up for practices and, school activities. And that was something really, really important to me because my time in the military, I missed a lot of those things, birthdays, holidays. And I figured the best way to do that would be to return to Colorado and kind of pursue my lifelong interests of, primitive living skills, survival, just remote backcountry adventures, and more importantly, Flint Knapping, which is basically making knives and blades and weapons out of stones. The same thing that we've been doing for 3.3 million years. Yeah. And it's turned into kind of a success, as far as
I'd say so, man.
Yeah, it's worked out. I was never on social media or anything like that prior to 2017 is when I had my heart attack. And then someone said, hey man, you need to get out there and kind of share with the world. You kind of have a unique approach to life and how you go about addressing your time in the bush and how you, teach folks, the world could benefit, You know me, I'm like, oh, the world could benefit. World, all right. So slowly but surely, I kind of just put myself out there and, it's only really been a benefit, ultimately ever since. But I think when you kind of say, who is Donny Dust? I'm always a dad first. That is like my number one priority. I love that, bro. Yeah, my sons they're just awesome. They're just, kind of have a rule. The one rule is you can't be me. You have to be you. So whatever your interests are, whether it's, traveling the world or rock climbing or Flint Knapping, whatever, you do you and you be happy with it. And it's okay to make changes along the way. Yeah. You should be adapting as you mature. Your focus is your mindset, how you go about approaching life based off your experiences. It should change. So don't be me, you be you and just enjoy it.
I love it.
So,
that's good, bro.
It's good, man.
So did you, what made you join the Corps? I mean, was it family or is it just, what was it?
It's kind of a funny story. So after high school, I went to a university called Kane University and I played football for 3 months. And I was like, I enjoyed playing football, but I just did not like school. It was not my jam. Just no interest in it. So I dropped out, went back to a butcher shop I was butchering at. And I was dating this gal, I was 18, 19 years old at the time. And she lived close to a recruiting station. And I went to her house. She wasn't home. And you kind of had to park close to the recruiting station. And it's just like something out of like a Hallmark movie. Like, she's not home. I run from the doorstep. It's raining out, but there's a light on. Yeah. And it's the recruiting station. So I walk in there. Army wasn't there. Navy wasn't there. Air Force. I don't think they're who knows where they were. Yeah. But there was a Marine Corps, staff sergeant sitting in there looking sharp, knocked on the door. Hey man, I'll join. He's like, how old are you? I'm like, I'm 18. He's like, you use drugs, ever been arrested? Nope. Well, come on in.
Yes, let's go.
That was it. And then a short couple months later, I was down at Paris Island and getting it rocking and rolling. And it was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Because I was kind of, I left school and I was kind of like, what am I going to do? I knew what I kind of wanted to do. I wanted to go out and see the world and adventure. And this is, in the 1990s, 98, I think at the time. So, I just kind of did it. My folks weren't the happiest, because nobody wants to see their child, get put in harm's way. Of course. But once they saw me walk across the parade deck and, United States Marine, you're in the title, they were pretty pumped. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. It's crazy. You share that. And it makes me curious. We had Tim Kennedy on the show.
Oh, right on.
And he said when first time he walked into a recruiting office, the reason he went to the Army is because nobody else was there.
Yeah.
And so that's so funny. Another example, I'm like, man, you recruiters, you guys might be missing some solid recruits just because you're on your lunch break or something, man. You know,
I think there's some truth to that, man. My grandfather, he was in the Army for a short stint, then got medically discharged, but there hasn't been a lot of military influence as far as how our kind of family flows. You know, we're a lot of blue collar. You know, I have uncles that have been, you know, in fire departments and EMTs and welders, and my dad is just a phenomenal business executive. Just really have a different sort of focus when it comes to that kind of family practice, if you will. And so I kind of broke that mold, and now my nephew, he's getting ready to pick up in the School of Infantry.
Look out.
He's gung ho. He's a monster. He's like 6'7", so he'll definitely be a machine. He's a beast.
Yeah.
He's a beast. I'm like, the dust we breed.
Yeah, well, man, you're big. How big? You're tall.
6'2".
Okay, 6'2".
So yeah, he's taller than me. I'll let him have it this time.
Yeah, for sure.
He's still a boot Marine. That's what I'll call him.
There you go, bro. That's awesome. Okay, so counterintelligence, human intelligence.
Yes.
I mean, I gotta imagine there's some. You gotta have some stories, man. You got some. Come on, you gotta give us some danger close stories.
Yeah, man. No, there's the best thing about the CI human community, especially in the Marine Corps side, is we operate in small teams, typically like a 6-man team, and you pretty much operate independently. You have like reach back assets as far as analysts and, you know, communications guys, but you are punched out, whether you're on a FOB, some sort of operations base, or independently. You're kind of in like these big boy rules. So based off of your requirements, what you're supposed to do, you come across all sorts of scenarios and issues that exist in that kind of pattern of life of the civilians that you're operating within. So, I mean, when I think of some of the crazy stories, I mean, they go from pulling dead bodies out of rice bags that have been identified by one asset who now wants to turn around and start canvassing a town to find the people that did it.
Wow.
To, you know, suicide bombers, preventing suicide bombers and finding weapons caches. And when you think of like a Marine Corps HET, human exploitation team, their job is really designed to, you know, save lives, provide intel. So for me, it never mattered really what it was. If it was a single AK or 100 AKs, bullets are bullets. They all do damage.
Yeah.
So it was to focus on that. And some of the, you know, scenarios that you come across are you get information that there's a weapons cache in a building or in a house or a farmstead, something to that extent. You go there and you clear it. You find said name weapons, but upon further investigation, you find, you know, a tractor trailer full of cash, 100 suicide vests, mortars that are designed to be melted on blocks of ice. And as the ice melts, eventually 2 wires connect and
look out, bro,
shoot off a rocket. So it was that kind of like daily occurrence of things. Well, when you dive into the deeper stuff, you know, targeting HVIs, like full blown networks, that's where you get into like the nitty gritty. And it's kind of like being a police officer. You build profiles and you have investigations. You start to really dive into a person's background. And when you do that, you kind of get an inside look. And one of the things that helped me in my counter intel kind of background was I went to a school called a mirror image school, where you actually live as a terrorist for 30, 60, 90 days. You build bombs, you do mock assassinations and kidnappings and black market deals. And we were going against a bunch of federal marshals, so it was kind of like training on training, if you will. So as they're targeting us, we're targeting them. And you get an inside look because the individuals that were teaching us had different affiliations left and right. And through those affiliations, I mean, we'd pray 5 times a day. We were only eating certain foods, wearing like a shawal kameez or a dishdasha. And it gives you an understanding when you sit down and you're targeting one of these individuals or you're interrogating them about why they think, you know, certain ways, how they operate certain ways. And it allows you to dissect that person's pattern of life, that cell's pattern of life, and really go for the, you know, the HVIs and the key players in those groups.
Wow. That's amazing, dude.
It was awesome. I'm not gonna lie. was quite the experience, but fortunately, Uncle Sam trains you pretty well, and you go to a variety of schools on how to do things, through clandestine means, through overt means, and you can really do some good stuff, which is awesome. Yeah,
for sure. That's awesome, man. So imagine you're traveling all over the world, probably. Is this what exposed you to the survival? Or is that something you picked up in the military? Was it your first exposure before it came your love?
Yeah, I think a lot of my survival and curiosity about the outdoors just stemmed from when I was a kid. This is the YouTube free, cell phone free. Yeah. We didn't even have internet. So probably much like yourself, you just grew up playing outside, shooting BB guns, catching fish, building forts and all that sort of stuff. And as I was younger doing that, I kind of started wanting to know why certain things were and what was kind of the methodology behind it. And I was at a flea market one day and I found an old Army FM manual all about survival. And that was like, the gospel of like, it now gave me directions. It gave me instructions. It gave me a little bit more in-depth sort of understanding of things. And I just started to kind of put those, how to build a trap, how's the best way to build a fort or a shelter, started to put those in action. And that kind of love and interest carried on into the Marine Corps. And then when I was in the infantry, as well as the counterintel field, they really embraced it. They would send me to different survival schools, or you would embed with, whether it was Bedouins in the Middle East or different military units in Southeast Asia, you're getting a taste of kind of how they live, how those people operate, what values do they have. And it just reinforced and built upon something I was already interested in. And then upon leaving the military and, working a few government contracts, I just knew that this is what I wanted to do. And the idea of, hunting and flint knapping and teaching these skills full time, it was something that, the military taught me very easily. When you want to do something, you do it. You got a mission to do it, knowledge, skills, and abilities. If that's what you have, go forth and execute. It's the same thing as like running a patrol or doing a 5-paragraph order, like lock it down, make it happen. And that was my mentality. So once I left the military, short stint around the DC area, and then shot back out to Colorado and just kind of took my interests and turned them into a full-time sort of offering and experience for folks. But it's always been a love. Like, I love the outdoors. I love learning about, ancient cultures and how they lived and why they lived certain ways. And it's completely fascinating to me.
So any times, when you're in the military that you had to, utilize your survival skills? Any rough at times?
Nothing to that like traditional like escape and evasion E&E sort of stuff. But there was always, being in a combat environment is an aspect of so just like a law enforcement offers, as soon as he gets out of his car, he's driving down the road. There's an aspect of survival to that. And I think there's a lot of lessons that I've learned from the military that have, crosswalked into kind of my civilian life as far as, just simple lessons that I incorporate in my training as far as like a keep in memory game or having just situational awareness, being able to recognize and recall bits of information from your past that you can apply to your future. We had that stuff drilled into us nonstop when I was going through NMITSI, the Naval Marine Corps Intelligence Training Center, just looking at photos and then running a mile on a beach and then being like, who's in the photo? And you're like, oh, it was George Bush. They're like, yeah, but who was behind him? You're like, oh, shit. Now I got to run back and doing that 4 or 5 times. And then by the 5th time, you got the photo up, you recognize everybody, you run back and you kick off all their names. They're like, but who was standing behind the instructor holding the other photo? You're like, son of a gun, man. You got to run. So just all those little sort of things kind of carry over in the civilian life, which I like to say I've exposed my sons to. And they're smart on the street.
Yeah, I bet they are, bro.
They're pretty good to go.
Sweet. So I want to get into a little bit of that side. Yeah. That side, just the wilderness side. Yeah. So you go and you were teaching a little bit, kind of doing some contract work, but then you went back home and you realized I want to do this. This is what I want to do.
Yeah. Once I left the military and I did some contracting. Like the one reason I left the military was to be a father and to be around my kids, and that contracting world kind of kept me still away. So I said the only way to really do this is to move back to Colorado and just kind of start laying that foundation. And for people that are looking to start their own business or kind of go their own route, it's not something where you just snap your finger and it starts. There is a slow progression, but it was about establishing a footprint in a place that I loved and being able to offer unique opportunities to folks to really build upon their own self-reliance is really what it kind of boiled down to, because Colorado's a great place for the outdoors. You get a lot of people out there hiking and skiing and snowshoeing, but I always like to paint the scenario. What happens when something happens? What happens if you're snowshoeing, you're 20 miles deep in the backcountry and a binding breaks? What happens if you're hiking with your family and, it's a dad and 3 daughters and dad twists an ankle? What are those sort of things that could go wrong? Not saying that they always will, but it's good to be ready to build upon your wilderness self-reliance, things that exist in the natural environment that you can utilize to get yourself out of a bad situation. So that all natural approach, that self-reliance has kind of been one of the focuses that I've been, aiming to, provide to folks and kind of give them insight into.
Yeah. I think people, I call it the dead man's thought. I teach, active shooter courses and stuff like that.
Right on.
And people think all the time, well, that's never going to happen to me. And that's the dead man's thought to me is, I don't need to prepare for that because that's not going to happen to me, because it's so far beyond what you see, as normalcy, the normalcy bias. We talk about the normalcy bias a lot. It's like, when we interview victims from active shooters, they're like, oh yeah, I heard the gunshots. I thought somebody was chopping wood in a college. I'm like, they're in a college. You thought, so because that's the mind is processing that, because somebody chopping wood in a college would be more normal than somebody showing up to commit mass murder. Right.
That makes sense.
And so I think, to your point, and I love you sharing your philosophy behind this lifestyle is, you're preparing yourself for the unfortunate, but very possible event that may occur. And you find yourself, having to live or survive off your own ability to do so.
Absolutely. And I think, that dead man's thought.
Yeah. Dead man's thought. Yeah.
I think that's a huge thought, and approach when it comes to people in the outdoors. They never think, well, it can never happen to me. I'll never, get caught at, 12,000 feet and a horrible storm's coming in or a flash flood. All those sort of things are very rare. But on the simple side, me going on a hike and breaking my ankle, and now what? I think it's a very logical thing to kind of ignore the possibilities of things that could go wrong. Even just traveling from, Colorado down to Dallas and then flying out here, my girlfriend and I, we had multiple stuff prepared in our car. It's a 12-hour drive. If something does happen, we're always, kind of ready to go, whether it's a flat tire or we have to, the car breaks down, whatever that case may be, you kind of work those contingencies in scenarios. And I think more people should be considerate of those things, those kind of dead man thoughts. I'm going to borrow that one for the rest of my life.
Bro, you can have it. You can have it, bro. Yeah. Because every dead man thought that. This is not going to happen to me. And it happened. And it's unfortunate, right? But it's like, tourniquets. It's simple, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, man, number one adjunct for saving lives and for massive hemorrhage, massive bleeding.
Stop the bleeding.
And nobody carries them, and they're cheap.
Super cheap. Yeah.
They should be in your car. Like you said, okay, so you're not you're not a counterintelligence guy. Or you're not a police officer, but you're driving down the road and you get in a wreck and you break your leg and your femoral, is severed because the bone, whatever, right? We can create a million scenarios.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to apply a tourniquet, you're gonna bleed to death in like 2 minutes. Pretty quick.
It's unreal because I've been in that situation. I was driving out of Fort Carson and there's kind of like this long drive to get out of it. And there's a light. Everyone has to turn left to get on the highway. And I took my right and then I was waiting in this long line of traffic. And then all of a sudden a bunch of hazards started going on. People getting out of their car, with their phones out, checking it out. And so I got out of my car and I instantly knew there was some sort of motor vehicle incident. And as I made my way to the front, there was just this head-on collision, and the lady in the car that I got to, there was a man in the other car who was able to kind of get up and stumble around and walk out. And as I approached her car, basically her whole front left quarter panel, front and into her door was just completely pushed in. So I was able to get her door open. Both of her wrists had snapped because she was holding on to that steering wheel, bracing for impact, snapped the wrist. Her head went forward, huge laceration across her brow. And then she had this just horrible femoral, but it was lower. It was just kind of like right above the knee.
Yeah.
So I open it up. I see the blood splurting, and I don't have a tourniquet, but I do have a belt, right? And the belt's the worst tourniquet I'm going to be on. I mean,
improvised tourniquets, bro. We talk about it all the time.
It's going to work. Yeah. It's going to start, but like you need like a legitimate one. So I'm going with the belt, start twisting it, and I just get it right around her leg, and the nurse opens up. Just as she was coming out of Carson as well, and she had like a full trauma bag.
Look out, bro.
Just littered with tourniquets. So I put the tourniquet on. She's talking to her because then she starts mentioning like my kids. And we're like, oh my God, are the kids in this car? And there was, I guess she was coming from a laundromat or something, but there was clothes, and nurse starts looking through. There's no kids, but she took a hard blow to the head, and she was starting to just kind of recall those key factors. But long story short, we were able to get a tourniquet on her. Paramedics eventually showed up. I had like this gnarly cut on my arm. They're like, you need to go to the hospital. I'm like, I'll be okay. You know, we're fine. We kind of gave our thing, and then we heard it. Well, I heard it on the news. My folks were coming to town that the lady like had made it through, you know, and it wasn't anything, you know, I'm not looking for accolades or anything like that, but it was one of those things where it was like, just by having a little bit of knowledge, skills, and then having the ability to actually put a tourniquet on her, myself and that nurse probably,
no doubt,
saved her life.
Yeah. I mean, I know, like you said, you're not looking for accolades, but let's be honest, you probably saved her life.
Yeah. And I think the moral is like, you got to have those things, you know, whether you carry, you employing EDC or just having a trauma bag in your car, first aid, that stuff makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Even packing like a bullet hole. I mean, how many people are like, just put pressure on it? You're like, have you ever seen a hole in like human flesh, whether it's from a stab wound? Like you can put 30 pounds of gauze.
Yeah,
that's the only thing.
Keep going.
Just keep packing it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Put your hands
simple
on
things like pressure points and stuff.
Yeah.
It's simple things, right? Just the slow bleeding. So yeah, I mean, I think the key here and what we're hammering is that, you know, people are like, oh, I don't want to be paranoid, but be prepared. You know, and there's a difference, right? Both start with P, but there's a big difference in the words, you know?
Absolutely.
If you're watching and wondering what I'm holding here, this beautiful piece of equipment, this is the Smith & Wesson Volunteer. It's one of my favorite firearms from Smith & Wesson. And I am a proud ambassador of Smith & Wesson firearms. I have been a lifelong fan of Smith & Wesson. They are one of the most iconic American companies, have been around for 170 years, making the best firearms, Second Amendment focused. And I love the people there. This from the CEO to the vice president that have become personal friends of mine. They are supporters of our military and first responder communities. In fact, they are supporters of Mighty Oaks, which makes them the premier sponsor of this show. And if you are in the market for one of the best firearms out there, then whether it's a rifle, a pistol, for whatever reason, for hunting, for self-defense, you need to get yourself a Smith & Wesson. You can't go wrong with Smith & Wesson. The quality, the craftsmanship, and the company itself is no way you go wrong. So check out Smith & Wesson and get yourself one of the most iconic American firearms you get your hands on. Smith & Wesson, my go-to, and a proud supporter of Mighty Oaks and our military and first responder communities. All right, guys, I want to thank one of our show sponsors. By the way, all the sponsors for Resilience are supporters of Mighty Oaks for our military and first responder communities. No better one than Gators. Gators has been serving the military and first responder communities with the most incredible American-made eyewear for 35 years. Lifetime frames. Before I got involved with them professionally, I wore Gators all over the world through military operations. The ballistic lenses are something I really believe in. The aluminum frames, just the clarity of the lenses, their polarization. I wore them for skydiving because they have a polarized lens that allows you to see digital digital screens. And so for skydiving, shooting, you name it, all the crazy activities I do, I wore gaiters. And then now I'm blessed to be in a relationship with them. And they're an amazing partner from Mighty Oaks. The best eyewear out there. Again, lifetime frame, American made, 35 years of service to our military and first responder communities. There is no better eyewear out there than gaiters. And they look super cool. So I love mine, and get yourself some.
I can see the way your mind works when you're talking about this stuff. So, like, what's the mindset that made you realize, man, I have to, like, this is going to be a part of my life, and I'm gonna spread this to the world.
Yeah, I think there was kind of like that that moment. So I had a heart attack at the age of 37, not because I did anything wrong, drugs, alcohol, anything like that. It was just a little bit of genetics and stresses in life.
Yeah.
And I was 37, was training for a super jungle ultra marathon down in Peru. It just crept up and bit me one day. So they put a stent in my heart, and there was a moment, kind of after, where as I was coming across people that were, 250 pounds, people that smoke, people do all these sort of wrong things, I was like, look, if it can happen to me, it can happen to you. Let me be your example. And from this, like, there needs to be a point of education. So I kind of took my focus on that heart attack as well as my interest in the outdoors and said, as many times as I've been in the outdoors, and there's been, close calls with bears and storms and things to that extent, it could potentially happen to you. So now it's time to educate the world and influence people. And I don't use the word influence in any way where it's buy this or do this because I say it, but more along exposure to these sort of extremes and these sort of opportunities, and give them what I like to call a ground truth. Yeah. The ground truth is the most important thing I find for people to ultimately experience. Like, you're a former SWAT, MMA fighter with a broken hand. You have a ground truth into that pattern of life. You have ground truth as a parent, and people need ground truths in different aspects of life so they can understand the nuances of the things they might have to face if that ground truth ever becomes a real truth.
Yeah.
So, if it's a dad and his 3 daughters and he wants to bring them camping, and as they're getting a little bit older, like, start that hiking, start that process, gain some ground truth. Let's take it one level. What happens if one of your daughters gets sick or you break an ankle? Like, we got to build upon that. So it's really about educating and teaching people that you don't have to have all the fancy gear, but you should have some knowledge, skills, and abilities into addressing said name problems, whether it's, reheating the body with a natural fire or finding a form of natural shelter or medicinal plant or something to that extent. So it's establishing folks in the ground truth.
I'm going to steal the ground truth.
Take it, man.
You steal the dead man's thought. I'll steal the ground truth, man.
Mine is yours.
I love it, man. So living this life, like, I mean, obviously I know you have a minimalist mindset. When you're home, how do you incorporate that into your daily life? What is a day in the life of Donny look like?
I'll be 100% honest. I'm a dad, just like any dad. I like to attend my kids' sporting events, parent teacher conferences, make them lunches in the morning, tell them I love them, see them out the doors. They slowly get in my truck and drive away. And I'm like, oh God, my kids are driving. I think when I have my sons, life is pretty normal, especially with my girlfriend. We sit down, we have dinners. It's very, what I would say, normal.
Yeah.
And the opportunities when I don't have my sons, it's a little bit more adventurous, or when I'm teaching or shooting something. It's a good balance, and it's taken me a while to kind of find that balance. And there's been times where, I pick my kids up in school and I'm covered head to toe in buckskins and blood. I'm like, don't look in the back. And they look in the back. They're like, another one? I'm like, yes, it's a deer, But it's that the balance of one thing. It's a balance of two things that I love, my sons and my family life, and then the outdoors. And I made a long time ago, made that choice of saying, I don't have to pick one. I can have both, and I can just find the balance. So I think that kind of everyday thing is when I have my kids, I'm 100% dad mode. I go to sporting events. I'm there rooting them on, cheering them on, make them a lunch. They still have to do their own laundry and take care of themselves in certain ways. But when I'm not, it's, loincloth, buckskins, teaching a class. My girlfriend and I are out, gathering medicinal plants or looking for artifacts, collecting stone, tanning hides, building bows, flint knapping, hunting, fishing. It's the perfect balance, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
That's awesome. I love that, man, because I'm a dad, so I'm super passionate about this topic. And I just think, everybody points at so many things as to, why our world is the way it is and the generations are going the way they're going, right? And I'm like, well, you should probably point at home, you should probably take that finger, not the school, not the criminal justice system, not the, like what's going on, So I love, man, hearing that, I imagine you're crazy busy, and we're getting into some of that other stuff here in a second. But you're making time to be present for your kids, man. That's that is literally, resilient means so much to us, but parents need to be resilient, and if they ever want to hopefully raise resilient children, then they have to be that for their children. And that means that they have to be present to do so.
Yeah.
So I love kudos to you, man. Not that I know you don't accept it, but it's cool, man. I love it.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I think parents are the key.
Yeah.
I think parents are the key. Parents aren't friends. They're parents. Their moms, their dads. There's times when you can lend that advice maybe in a friendly capacity, but my sons are my sons. They know I'm not their friend. I'm their father.
Yeah.
It's more than a friend, if you know what I mean. And, there's a respect between us. We've butted heads, as all males do, but we sit down, we talk about it. And I think from my own personal experiences, I just wanted them to have different opportunities to kind of address, hey, my youngest son is a freshman on a varsity lacrosse team, and he's, he gets nervous about playing this, that, and the other. And I'm like, this is making you immensely strong. This is making you, someone that, somebody's going to want to watch one day, playing in college or whatever the case may be. But this is making you a better person. I know it's uncomfortable, but I'm also the type of parent where I'm like, you need to deal with it, and I'll help you deal with it. But you also need to, this isn't the end, nervousness is one thing, and I think a lot of parents these days, they shy away. They don't want their kids to feel any discomfort, as no parent does, but some discomfort is a good thing. You should have a little stress if you have have a test and maybe you didn't study for it. What did you learn? There's a lot of examples I could provide, but I think with my two boys, it's giving them enough to get a little discomfort, but also realizing like they can be the quickest, solution to that discomfort when it comes to anything that they kind of face daily.
Yeah. This concept, the challenge equals progress. Like adversity creates growth.
Oh man.
And like, I think it's important, to your point. I think that as parents, we have to manufacture adversity for our children sometimes.
Yes.
Because it's easy to live. And my kids can pull any show up he wants on Netflix. He can play any game, So anyways, that concept of manufactured adversity, which you're no stranger to in your experiences, but our kids, may not have those. So super powerful.
Right.
You mentioned something that I don't want to breeze over before because I think it's the coolest thing.
Go for it.
Is the flint knapping stuff. Man.
Right.
My favorite video I've seen of you is you busting this chunk of obsidian up into like 20 different little arrowheads. And man, how'd you get into that? That's kind of that's almost, I don't know if it's a niche inside the survival community, but it kind of seems like it is.
It definitely is. Yeah. Flint knapping is probably the one thing that's given me a lot of exposure and more of an opportunity to kind of reach people.
Yeah.
And I say, when you really think about our early ancestors and hunter and gatherers and Neanderthals and all that sort of stuff, what was one of the things that really defined them? Was stone tools. So in my survival path, eventually you use a knife, you use an axe, you use a saw. It eventually becomes camping. It gets a little bit easy. So I said, how did we do it? How did we start from square one? And it came down to stone tools. So I've dedicated countless years to understanding the science of lithic reduction and finding the right stones, and the entire process so I could really start at square one, if you know what I mean. So going out into the bush with just a handful of stone flakes and being like, what can I make? What can I create? Because creativity is really your number one survival skill.
Yeah.
And
Creativity is your number one survival skill.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, man, you make it all.
Yeah.
Think about it. What can I do here? What can I do here? And for me, it was that stone tool path. And flint knapping is probably the hardest skill to learn, but it should also be your first skill to learn. Because everyone throws a scenario out. Well, what do you do if you're in the woods and you don't have a knife? And there's a lot of different answers. My mentality is you make one, create one, whether it's a simple cutting tool, chopping tool, something to that extent. And flint knapping is that process to go about it. So when you deep dive into the archaeological record and the history of, our evolution and the different hominids that existed, they all employed stone. And we've used stone longer than we've used steel. Stone will last forever. Steel will typically rust away. So there was a great approach to it. But for me, the flint knapping has just been my focus, where it's super challenging to go out into the bush with just a stone blade and say, now I'm going to not just survive, because surviving is just getting by.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to thrive.
Yeah.
That's where you're truly living. So that's my approach. And when I go camping with, my girlfriend or my sons or, some friends, we camp when Donny goes out.
Yeah.
How can I make this the worst experience, but come out on the top? And that's take everything you think you need, get rid of it, and just go out with your mind. Know more and carry less. When you know more, you carry less. Everything that you create in the bush becomes that much more important, that much more sacred, that much more like, I just made a bowl out of a piece of wood that now I can collect water, I can transport water, I can boil it. It's awesome.
No more, carry less. Man, you got these are some strong. I'm stealing these, bro.
Take them
these
all,
are
man.
good ones, man.
Take them all.
No more, carry less.
That's it.
So I'm curious, all these adventures, right? You have, do you have a favorite wilderness adventure?
Oh, man. I do. Yeah.
It's probably a super hard question considering how many.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, I have a lot with my sons and my girlfriend, but I guess if I was to do, something solo, I really enjoyed like my time in the Amazon and then my time in Africa.
Yeah.
I was living with the Maasai people in Africa. And this was this past November. I was there for like 30 days. And I just wanted a different opportunity, because sometimes, even though I'm usually in that kind of like teacher position, I wanted to become a student. I wanted to learn from people, because that's ultimately how we progress in life. We're always learning. And so I spent some time living with the Maasai, but I spent some time with this individual who went by the name of Moses. And he was between 70 and 80 some years old. He doesn't know his exact birth date.
Wow.
He was a former poacher, but not a poacher as in, shooting rhinos and elephants for ivory.
Yeah.
He was deemed a poacher by the government because he had to get food for his family.
Okay.
He grew up hunting, and then certain laws were put in place where hunting was no longer allowed. And he just still needed food. So he was kind of put in jail, and then he was taken out of jail to help with anti-poaching. And then through a couple different conservation organizations, I was able to come across Moses, and we spent some time, and I learned just an unbelievable amount of stuff from this man who he spoke maybe a handful of English, and through an interpreter we were kind of able to chat back and forth just about simple things. And as I was spending time with him, he kind of looked at me funny because I was called a Dorobo, which is just a white guy.
Ah.
And so at first, he's a Dorobo, but then when I could do a fire by friction and I could show him some of the things that I know, he kind of like gave me a different respect, more as like a Bushman sort of approach. And just
because this guy lived in the bush his entire life.
Entire life. So he's the like legitimate like Bushman.
Gotcha.
Like he knows plants. Like we spent an entire 2 days looking for a specific bird that would lead us to a beehive with stingless bees, just so we could have a snack of honey.
What?
Yeah. Just like, I'm 100% in. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
So we're building bows. We're chasing down vultures to get their feathers for fletchings. We're tracking baboons. We're drinking from springs. We're eating the fruits. I don't know what they are, but he's, shaking a tree. Fruits are falling down. He puts them in his mouth. I'm like, well, if he's doing it, I'll do it. Yeah. So we were just out there. I've spent a lot of time hunting, but I've never seen someone move in the bush and know the sounds and just everything like this man. Like this one thing, we were following some zebra tracks, and he's like, there's 40, 50 zebra, but he's able to track one. And he's like, this one's pregnant. I'm like, how do you know, that's pregnant? He's like, well, as you look at it, and this is through the interpreter.
Yeah.
Most, hoofed animals, they walk kind of in line. Their hooves follow in line. But as this one's gotten pregnant, the hooves widen, the hips will widen on the animal, and the hooves will spread out.
Look out.
So he's like, this is about 4 months pregnant. And I was like, get out of here. And then we found another set of tracks where they were even water. This one's going to be giving birth before you know it. And I was just like, my mind was just blown. And I'm trying to take all of this in as much as I can. But I think my experiences with him, I was able to fall back into that kind of student role and take everything that I could. And more importantly, get words of wisdom and ideas and approaches, and learn about just not the skills, but who he was as a person, his family, his culture, and kind of ultimately, how he grew up, and, the things that are changing in their government, and where he is and where he wants to be. And it was just an amazing, it was like an all encompassing experience, because you can head out in the bush and go live in a cave and catch fish and build fires. And that's great. Yeah. That's wonderful. But it's always better when you can be out there with someone else and you can kind of connect with them and learn who they are, whether it's someone that speaks a completely different language, or, when I go out with my boys or my girlfriend or whoever, you're always learning something new, So that was a pretty amazing experience, just to hear his ground truth and be part of his story.
Yeah. Sounds amazing. I'm my mind's blown out. I wasn't there. So that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, right on.
So you've studied with these guys. They're using the tools that you're using, correct? I mean, this is, you see this is what they're doing. They're hunting, we have all these different diets nowadays. And what do you see these, like the Maasai, what do they eat?
Yeah. So the Maasai, they are a pastoralist sort of culture. So that means livestock is very, very important, and they're relatively new. They're 800, 900 years old. They kind of migrated from the northern edges of Africa. But being a pastoralist society, they drink milk, they eat meat, and they drink blood.
Wow. That's
it. And they keep chickens, but the chickens eat the fleas off of their livestock. So sheep and cattle are their number one currency. Yeah. So, and they'll also eat something called ugali, which is like this cornmeal kind of paste sort of thing, but
made from corn,
made from corn, different flours at times, but it's like a porridge that's really, really thick, but, that's what they eat. And,
no vegetables, hardly.
No vegetables, nothing, man.
Some fruit, or do they get fruit, or not really in the Maasai now?
It's just meat, blood, and milk.
Look out, bro.
And they have the whitest teeth, the cleanest teeth, the healthiest bodies.
Yeah, I was going to say what their health is like. I mean,
no sugars in the
outside diet. Of acute trauma or something like that. I mean, they're healthy.
Healthy, man. Yeah. Healthy,
no sugars, you said,
no
right?
Sugars.
Yeah,
they brush their teeth with a little swizzle stick. They're always moving. They're always active, tending to their livestock, drinking teas. It's one of those cultures for, and there's a lot of different, you have agriculturists, pastoralists, hunter-gatherers, all that sort of stuff. But for them, their food is the thing, is essentially their currency, their cattle, their sheep, their goats. Yeah. So with that currency, that's also their food source. And it's they really tend to their food source. It is their livelihood. You'll see a 9-year-old boy walk out of the boma in the morning, which is a big circular sort of barrier that keeps leopards and hyenas and lions out. I see a 9-year-old boy, 7-year-old boy walk out with, a bunch of head of cattle, goats and sheep. And he's got a rungu, which is a throwing club, and like an oleum, like a little sword. He's 9 years old. These kids are out there with lions, leopards, the water buffalo, the buffalo out there. They will just charge on sight. So these kids are just part of that environment where, parents in America are afraid to let their kids ride around the street,
bro.
But like a lion and a leopard, and these kids
talk about adversity, bro.
That's what I mean. there's no lights. They don't have power. They might have one like crank radio. They'll build a fire at night, crank it up, and then they'll all dance around it and just have, that's kind of like fun. And the kids were, when I went into this village, I brought a bunch of goats as like will you let me stay here?
Yeah.
Put me to work.
Yeah.
I'll carry logs, whatever you need. Stand guard at night for the livestock. And the kids were a little thrown off because one, I was a white guy, I was a large white guy. And this isn't like a tourist village where like tourists come in.
It's common. It's not common. Yeah.
They've never seen it. And then my tattoos threw them off. I'm out there with a tank top and it's just everywhere. And then they're kind of looking at you strange and then touching. And then my white beard was, they had no idea. They had no idea, So, you kind of shake a couple hands. And then I brought some flashlights, pencils, and pens, just as kind of like little gifts. And then a tan goat hide and a little first aid kit. My interpreter was like, they don't need the first aid kit. I'm like, oh man, there's like
good stuff in there.
It's totally good stuff. They're like, they've got everything that they need. And I was like, yeah, that was in my mind. I was like, yeah, you should have known better. Like they have everything that they need to treat wounds, small wounds, if there's something major, they're going to figure it out. But, they were more enthused about having flashlights because there was no lights. So when they stand guard at night, they can
look out,
flip a light, see the eyes of a leopard, lion, something like that. But yeah, man, it was an amazing experience. Spending time with Moses, who was part of the Kamba tribe, and then the Maasai, which was, a different Kamba hunter-gatherer, Maasai pastoralist.
So what about the Kamba hunter-gatherers? Similar diet, similar
meat. Everything is bush meat.
Bro, so just put one in the cap for the carnivore community, bro.
That's what I mean. It doesn't matter if it's a zebra, a gazelle, whatever. It's just all bush meat. And if they come across something that was killed or something of that capacity, they could scavenge it. It's free bush meat, and their style of, traditional hunting was typically with poison. So you had to get up very close with a very short bow. And they introduce a poison into the blood and then track that animal over a period of time.
Where do they get the poison?
Just from the natural environment. There's different saps when added with another sap will create this,
toxic.
Yeah. It stops the blood, stops the heart. They shoot a real small, like arrow, the small little projectile, just to introduce the blood into the bloodstream. And then they
track it.
And they track it, follow it, start butchering it out. And everything is consumed on those animals. I'm talking heart, liver, lungs, intestines, you name it. Everything is just taken off of it. And whether it's, like I said, something they scavenged or something they killed, they're gonna maximize that food source. And they will do some supplemental, like, bush nuts and honey and things that. But it's
for the most part.
Yeah, it's whatever they can really get their hands on. But yeah, I mean, best diet.
So fascinated by it. Bro. Have you ever read or heard of? Man, I'm gonna get the title. Probably not 100% correct, but it's something like Physical and Nutritional Deficiencies by Weston A. Price.
That sounds fun.
So he goes and he studies. It's really cool.
Yeah,
he's like a dentist by trade. He goes and studies these tribes to kind of, because like you said, like whitest teeth in the world. Like, how does this happen? And what he ends up realizing is that it's not something they're doing to their teeth. It's what they're putting in their body.
Bingo. And
so he studies, their nutrition, their way of life. And he's up writing this really long book that really, honestly, there's a Weston A. Price Foundation that's done. It's changed the world in a lot of communities. But he does this project where he starts to introduce like grains and processed foods, and you start to see how decline body health markers start to be less positive, start showing negative results. So anyways, I'm so fascinated by it. As an athlete, I struggle between this, like, trying to eat for performance and trying to eat for health. And those are two different things. And it's really cool to hear like firsthand experience from these guys. They're literally just eating meat for the most part, maybe some, like you said, some honey here, some nuts there. And they're thriving. I mean,
man,
like
totally thriving. And it's, I mean, in this Western world, it's, we used to be like that in a very, a lot of different times, but as things have become processed and more shelf stable and long term, that becomes more available, more yield, but a decline in the overall health. I like in my house, we eat, I say about 95% hunted meat. So we do a bison every year, elk, mule deer, like I said. And next weekend I'll be hog hunting just to start to put that meat in the freezer. And one, it's the healthiest option you can really you can come across, and it's totally doable. A lot of people think like, how could I hunt? Well, if hunting's not your thing, you can still go out and purchase, half an animal or a cow, something like that. You can go out and forage. You can find tubers. You can grow your foods.
Yeah.
And I think with my mentality, my girlfriend's mentality, and with my boys, that's what we like to do. And it's you feel good. You feel healthy, especially when you hunted it, you caught it, you foraged it, you trapped it, whatever that case may be. It's 100% doable. And I think people should kind of fall back to that. They should know how to plant some foods, or how to even open up like a fish, or hunt some small game. Maybe not on the, large scale if that's not their thing, but it's good. It's good. Like my favorite thing to eat is marmot. Like basically it's a giant groundhog that lives way up in the mountains. They're delicious, man. They eat flowers and lichen and mosses, and just, they're delicious. Hunting season starts in August. I put the marmot in my fridge, and there's a lot of things in the freezer, but I'm
sure,
it's good.
To see Donny's freezer, bro.
Oh man,
I bet it's exciting.
It's good. It's good. But yeah, man, there's 100% truth in that.
That's awesome, man. Cool. I love to hear that. We could talk about that the whole podcast. So I'm going to shift because I'll carry that
no worries
the whole time. But I'm curious. What's your longest adventure? Like how long, Donny adventure, like out there, what's the longest you've been out?
Yeah, I've spent, one of my longer trips was when I was younger. That was in Australia. That was for 62 days.
62 days.
Yeah, I was I landed in Rockhampton, Australia, and then walked 31 days west, then walked 31 days east.
Bro.
During that time, I did come across people in random towns and stuff like that. And, but it was more of like a solo little adventure sort of trip, experience. And I had a little bit more modern amenities. Like I said, I was a little bit younger at that time, but most of my trips where I'm like in true survival mode, true capacity, is around that like 30-day mark.
Gotcha.
A good month. And that's with, I kind of call it my core 4, which is like some form of a blade, whether it's stone or steel. A barrier, which is like a blanket, a wool blanket, an animal hide, a tarp, some sort of warming layer, barrier layer, an aspect of a bottle, like a single walled steel bottle or a clay pot or a bush bucket, something like that, where I can transport water, carry water, more importantly, process water. And then an aspect of fire, whether that's dry materials, a piece of tinder fungus, or I'm just making fire from the land. Those 4 things are really hard to replicate out in the bush. So if I'm doing, let's just say 2 weeks or 30 days or whatever that case may be, I like to have a little bit of something because, sometimes you want to enjoy it, but usually the first 5, 6, maybe 10 days, you're really trying to establish that kind of footprint, that pattern of life. Where am I getting my water? Where am I getting my food? And then you just move to living. But some of the best experiences are really 3 days, 5 days, because you go to a place you haven't been to, or you've hiked this valley 20, 30 times. And then one day you just happen to look left and there's this beautiful cave and you're like, oh my goodness. And you find this cave and you're like, I can live in this cave. And you're like, this is the best cave ever. There's no bat droppings. Nothing's falling on the ground. You're like, I'm going to live in this cave. And then you live in that cave.
Look out, dude.
It's it's kind of like one day, 100 days. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's all beautiful. It's all awesome. We'll have a good time.
So you said blade, barrier, bottle, and some way to start a knife. Those are your 4. Burn.
Yeah.
4 Bs. I like it. 4 Bs. Blade, barrier, bottle, burn.
Burn. Yeah.
I like it. That's
really, when you really think about it, like it's really hard unless you can flint knap or something to make a blade and something to wrap yourself up or give you shade or give you warmth. And then more importantly, the water. I mean, springs, morning dew, rain, snow, that's all benefits, but being able to find water and then carry the water from point A to point B is pretty important.
Yeah.
And fire's fire.
Fire, I mean, right?
You can do fire.
Yeah. So how do you make water? Like how do you process water? You got to heat it, right? I mean, so
typically I always like to call like free drinks are the best drinks, right? So like rain, snow, fog, morning dew. Like if you walk through like a field that's usually got morning dew, just, stick your face in the grass and start sopping it up, or take off your t-shirt, kind of clean it up and then wring it into your mouth. If you don't have a metal water bottle, you can't boil water. You could definitely use an animal skull, which I've done before, and you kind of just scoop up the water, dirty water, in a dirty animal skull, and you're going to process it. So you just heat up rocks in a fire, small rocks, take those rocks, drop it in that water. It will flash boil, kill all the bacteria on the inside, and you got clean water.
Drink it. Just
start drinking. You can make buckets and bowls out of wood, down logs. It's all an option. I mean, water boils at 212 degrees. So as long as that water is moving and it's bubbling, it's killing everything on the inside. It might have a couple little, particulates in it, as far as maybe leaves or stems or something.
Yeah.
But you just spit those out.
Yeah.
Clean water.
Look out, man. Have you ever had any like, oh man, I might not make it out of this on your trips, any of your long trips?
Yeah. I had a trip. Actually, it was last year. I was out in Utah, and I was out in these canyons for a couple days, and there was supposed to be a water source, because I had walked kind of up the canyon before, and this time I dropped down into it from the very top, and I knew when I walked in the first time there was water at the top. And when I dropped down into it, there was no water. I'm like, well, water typically moves downhill, lowest naturally point. So then I walked all the way to the mouth over a series of days, and there was no water. And usually rules around 3 days based on the environment, body type. You can start to expire pretty quick. And
3 days.
3 days.
That's all it takes for water.
Well,
I mean, to start seeing some issues.
Yeah. I would say if you're like in an extreme desert, you maybe got a day because it's so hot. But, being that I was in these canyons, somewhat shaded, I really paid close attention on the way back, started looking for signs of vegetation that could have underground water, hard bends in the stream, usually where rocks are, that kind of traps water. And I found, one spot that had some trapped water. So I kind of dug that out and just slammed my face into it and started drinking it, because I'd rather have, Giardia or beaver fever, cryptosporidium, something like that, than die of dehydration. So drank that water, eventually crawled myself out of this canyon, got to the top of the canyon, and then started to get that tunnel vision where you start to black out. And I was moving from shade to shade. So I'd see one little juniper tree that was just casting enough shade. And as I was walking, I was dry heaving, and I was going down real quick. And I knew I had probably 2 miles. So I'd get to a point of shade and would just sit there for 15, 20 minutes, slowly stand up, see my next one, and just keep going until eventually I was able to make it back to my truck, where I had just a hot Gatorade sitting in the back that had been heating up in the sun, and was just drinking it down as quick as I could. Threw it up, which was definitely a thing you don't want to do. But then there was I had an old bottle of water in there. Some people in their cars, they keep their emergency kits.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where I had a bottle of water, pulled it out, and had one good mouthful, just kind of wet the whistle. And then just set it down and started kind of that rehydration process. Not a true rehydration process, but more about a functioning hydration, because realistically I needed some IVs or anything like that. But had that bottle, and then temperature started to drop, and then I was able to kind of drive out at night. But
look out,
man,
dude.
it was bad.
What are you thinking, man, when you're out there and you're like, oh my gosh, did I go too far this time? What's your mindset? What are you thinking?
I never say, I'm going to expire. This is it. I just think, okay, kind of what your situation is. All right. It's midday or it's afternoon. You're down on water. What can you do to make the situation better? Can you move shade to shade? Should you wait for nightfall? However, nightfall comes, you don't have any visibility, and you got to shoot up this cliff face. You start kind of weighing out those scenarios, but you only weigh them out for so long. It's like I hear a lot of folks saying conversations. They're good. We got to talk. And we should, but also action needs to be taken. Conversations will keep you put and stay in one place as you're contemplating, because you're having a conversation with yourself at that point. Yeah. But at a certain point, you have to say, all right, these are my options. What am I going to do? I'm going to execute this sort of thing. So the mindset is, 1, I'm not going to die. 2, how do I quickly overcome this and just improve upon my situation? And the improvements can be small. It can be a 1-minute improvement. It can be 10 steps, but I have to keep on improving. And once I got to the top of that canyon and was going from shade to shade, that was my plan. All right, you see shade, you can cool down. It's 90 degrees, 95 degrees, but it'll be a little bit cooler there. Even if it's not, I think it is.
Yeah.
Therefore, that's my action. Truck is 2 miles away. You can do 2 miles. More importantly, the Marine Corps is playing in the back of my mind. You've been in worse. No one's trying to kill you. There's no bombs in the road. So you start playing that mental game. Like, you're absolutely right, Uncle Sam. I'm doing this, you know, and you just kind of, you know, like I like to tell my kids, get over it. Sack up. You have to adapt and overcome over the situation. You know what you need to do. Go for it. Like, you've got to do it. Otherwise, you know, crows will be eating your body the next day.
Yeah.
So
you'll be dwelling in the problem instead of finding the solution.
And that's resiliency. That's what that is. It's going off of those past experiences. I know I can do this. I know the things that I need to do. I just need to implement them in a very logical manner. You know, like when I got out of the Corps, I actually went back to college and I got a degree in psychology because I wanted to be able to understand how, you know, my mind works and how it can reflect upon others and how others can reflect upon me, perceptions, all these different things. And one of the things I went into a lot was just cognitive behavior therapy, acknowledging a problem cognitively, and then identifying the things that could, you know, push you over the edge or things that could kind of pull you back from the edge, and being able to identify those things, whether it was thinking about a specific action or recognizing the problem. Whether this is dealing with, you know, PTSD or trauma or anything like that, it's the acceptance that said thing has happened. These are my triggers. These are the things that push me to the edge. These are the things that pull me back. And I think those sort of kind of unique wilderness experiences, I know the things that push me close to the edge, but I also know the physical things as well as the mental things that can pull me back from the edge and say, all right, this is how you have to go to approach. This is how you approach this situation to get out of this canyon, or, you know, you split your toes open because you were walking barefoot and you're 10 miles from the nearest trailhead. This is what you got to do. And it kind of gives you that mental ability, mental, physical, emotional, and primal well-being to kind of address that problem, move past it.
I love it, dude.
Right on.
It's good stuff, man.
Right on, man.
Cool. Let's keep going down the path here. So we got to talk about Alone, man. We have to, not only because
for sure.
my wife is like a diehard fan.
Right.
I told her I was interviewing Donny. She was like, I'm so jealous right now. Like, I'm dying. So, man, what was that? How did they cast?
Yeah.
And then, what was that experience like?
Yeah. So, I mean, in 2017, I went on social media, and that's when they contacted me. One of the casting producers, her name's Quinn, and she's been a longtime friend, but she, you know, reached out and was like, we would love to have you on. Would you send an audition tape? You've got a really unique set of skills, something we've never really seen on Alone. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, I'm always down for an adventure, you know, and I'd been doing this stuff for so long. I was like, yeah, this is probably the safest experience for me. With safety teams and this, that, and the other. So, went through the audition tape where I kind of had to showcase some of my skills. And then once I was selected to be one of the 20 participants, you kind of go to this boot camp where it's kind of like your live audition, if you will. And you have to make fires and, you know, clean a fish and kill a rabbit and do some shelters. Yeah. They kind of just assess your skills. And then once that was done, a couple weeks later, they were like, we'd like you to go on season 6. And I was like, that sounds great. Where are we going? We're not going to tell you. I'm like, I'll figure it out. You know, it's going to be cold, very, very likely. And so I started to really just kind of get prepared for it. And my preparation was pretty simple because it was like, what are you going to eat when you're there? Yeah. Well, that's what you should start eating now. Gotcha. You know, you don't want to be eating cheeseburgers and pizza. I was trying to go in calorie positive because you always want to go in calorie positive.
Yeah, I've heard that, right? You want to go in calorie positive.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I didn't want to do burger calorie or pizza calorie. Yeah. So a lot of meats, a lot of tubers, a lot of berries, things like that. And then, we all met up in Yellowknife, the 10 participants and then 2 alternates. And we kind of went through like an area fam, if you will, kind of like, this is the area that you're in right now will resemble where you're going to be going. And let's do some safety. Let's work cameras because you gotta
show
work
you how to do that stuff.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, I don't know any of this. I was more worried about cameras, like, not hitting record, so because they drill it into you, like, remember, this is a relationship. We've kind of hired you to come here and film, and we're going to give you a great opportunity, but we want the footage.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, went to insert day, and I was pumped. I was like, this is great. I mean, you're on a great TV show, a lot of good people. You just got to film it. And I was like, all right, easy peasy. So my plan going into Alone was not to build a shelter, but to build a home. And I was like, to live out here, you have to have a home. You have to feel safe. You have to feel secure. You have to feel like you want to fall back to that at the end of the day of chopping wood or hunting and feel comfortable. So I really focused on my shelter / home at that time. And once that was up, it was normal. It was going to be what I have been normally doing for years and years and years. And right off the bat, where I picked my location, there was lots of squirrels. I'm not going to eat those squirrels quite yet because they're going to hang around that area once winter falls. So I was really thinking long term.
Strategic.
Yeah, it's about the long game, really. And I was just eating a lot of berries, and that's really kind of one of the things that really got me in was there was likely probably some urine or feces, all the berries are on the ground, crowberries, salmon berries, mountain crush, all those sort of things. And I think I kind of got some bad berries. So as I got those bad berries, it started giving me a little bit of a GI issue. And like an idiot, not listening to the producers, I wasn't filming myself going to the bathroom every hour and then every 30 minutes. Because I was like, you've been sick before. You know what you need to do. You need to find some yarrow. You need to find a couple different things that can help.
Yarrow is a medicinal plant?
Yes, yarrow is a medicinal plant. And I've taken yarrow and I know what it does. I'm like, you find this, it's out here. You're going to be fine.
Be good. Yeah.
Which is also good as you move into winter. You should get some of those medicinal plants as they die out. You still have them during winter, dry them out.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So as I'm looking, the first day or the second or third day, couldn't really find it. And then I was like, all right, you should also be incorporating another action into your search for yarrow. You should also be hunting. And started that hunting process. So I'm looking for yarrow and I'm also hunting. And then I come across the muskrat. I see the muskrat on the shore, shoot the muskrat.
Yeah.
And I'm pumped because I'm like, all right, I got some food. The downside to it was as soon as I opened up that muskrat, cleaned it all out, cooked it up and started to eat it, my body kind of went into this food shock because I had been a couple of days without food. Plus I'd been kind of losing it on one end. And then as soon as I put that muskrat in me, it really intensified really everything that was going into my body. And I just really went downhill quick.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, I was like, man, I can't, you're not going to tap. And I was like, you'll be fine. Just keep looking. And I was using Labrador tea, which doesn't have the best medicinal properties. It's great for like a foot wash and a tea, but I was like, this isn't working. So on that day 8, I'm like, you need to go out and you need to find it. Now, where I was on a little island and I had kind of half of the island, think of like a cigar, kind of like cut down the middle.
Yeah.
And could not find it, man. And I've looked for yarrow and have found yarrow all around and I just could not find it on this island. So I was like, man, this is really bad. And I was like, I'm going to head back to camp. I'm going to do some filming. See if I can get my mind off of it and see if I can come up with a different solution, different action. And I couldn't even do that. It was just both ends coming in and out. And then at a certain point, I knew I was at a point where I wasn't going to be able to recover with some help.
Yeah.
I was severely dehydrated. And my one thing my doctor told me before I left is, you have to stay hydrated, especially with your heart.
Yeah.
That could result in another heart attack. And you can wind up dying, and I was like, oh my God. So then I started thinking about my kids.
Yeah,
and like,
of course. Yeah.
Not going to do it. And then I was like, all right, you're going to do it. Went through the whole tapping process. They had to film it and everything. And then there was this one safety coordinator, set medic. His name was Kieran. He's this old British SAS guy. And like, former military, he's been in the stuff, if you will. And he kind of walked over me, gave me a hug. He's like, look, man. And he's got this hard, like South London accent. He's F these guys. You've done harder stuff in a single day than any of these bad. Like he's just going. And I'm like, you're right, Kieran. Thank you. He's like, screw that, mate. And I'm like, all right. And he's like, you'll be fine. Sack up. I'm like, Roger that. I'm okay. He's like, you're fucking all right. And I was like, all right, man. All right. So he kind of gave me that little bit of motivation that I need. And then when everything was said and done, I spent like just in right around 2 weeks in recovery, like rehydrating and it was a slow process because I had just gone downhill so quick. But I had a blast, to be honest with you. Like so many people ask, would you go back on it? And I'm like, I've never been invited to, but I would absolutely go on it. I mean, I've done a lot of spin-off shows like Alone the Beast, where that was like 30 days in a swamp with no tools, which is kind of my wheelhouse. I like that challenge. They just gave us one dead hog and made jerky and shelters and atlatls and killed possums and caught stuff. But it was an absolute blast. It's probably the most authentic TV show when it comes to survival TV. Yeah. Survive that. There's been a lot of shows out there and you hear stories of this, that, and the other, but on Alone, you are literally alone with your camera stuff and they say, go. And you're like, okay.
That's awesome.
It's pretty good. If you want to go on it, man, I'll send it.
I have to come train with you for a little while first, man. Yeah. You put a gun in my hand, I'm pretty good. You put me on the woods, I'm going to struggle a little bit. Man, I like I said, my wife loves the show. So I remember it looks like it was the muskrat, but I watched you clean it and, even talking about like, we make sure there's no spots on the kidneys and, so I'm like, man, like, and I think your skill set, and we can say this all day, right? Because we're sitting here now, but I think your skill set, had you not been sick, would have been really, really strong in that environment,
Yeah. I mean, I remember as we were in that boot camp, and I appreciate that. Myself and Jordan, who won that season, we were like, I'm like, I know it's going to come down. And I see, he goes, it's going to be you and me at the end. I'm like, well, I'll see you later then, But it was that, but the beautiful thing about it is, I think if anybody can walk away from it is, the lesson to be learned is you do get sick in the bush. Like there's no way of getting around that, whether it's you're messing around with some sort of animal or berries, muskrat, whatever, but I'd eaten hundreds of muskrats, shot them with plenty of bows and I always inspected. The problem was I just didn't film myself getting sick, which kind of resulted in like, well, we kind of have
to look like it was the muskrat. Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of have to tell a story. So, it was what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like dwell like, oh my God.
For sure.
I think I ate a muskrat like a month later when I got home.
Yeah.
Guys, if you don't have precious metals, you got to get your hands on some. The world is not a stable place. Our banking system certainly is not a stable place. So it's important to have precious gold and silver on hand. For me, precious gold, precious silver, and also precious lead to be able to protect yourself. But look, if you are not already into this, you need to go to MidasGoldGroup.com. Our friends there are incredible people. They're incredible patriots. They love America and they have the best resources on precious metals. The owner, James Clark, is a Marine Corps veteran. He's a patriot and he is my friend also. And they're just incredible people who know this market inside and out. And you could go there. And if you mention my name, Chad Roby Show, you will get free silver. You'll get some free silver and you can invest in precious metals and have tangible precious metals on hand in a time of need when those financial markets go down. Go to MidasGoldGroup.com and get your precious metals today. Guys, you heard me say before, you will never hear me promote something that I don't use and don't believe in. One of the supporters of this show is BioPro. I am a believer in this product and offers you a complete growth factor profile. I mean, you're talking about improving your sleep, growing muscle, releasing your own growth hormones in your body, improving your metabolism, just bone density, the way you feel, your overall mood, your sexual desire, your libido, all these just incredible things that come naturally if you could trigger it from your body. As BioPro does that for you. There's a lot of benefits I've heard of from other pro athletes that take this from special operators. But for me personally, I've definitely noticed the increase in recovery, but the biggest thing I've noticed for me is my sleep. Sleep's important to me. I function well with all the stuff I have to do, from speaking, from writing, to running Mighty Oaks, to doing podcasts like this, and going on international operations. Like, I have to have good sleep in order to be able to function at my highest level. And I was not getting it. I would sleep like 4 or 5 hours a night. It was kind of choppy, and I was doing all kinds of things for years. And as soon as I started taking BioPro, I started getting 8 to 9 hours of solid sleep. That's why I'm just hammering home how much I love this product. The people there are absolutely amazing. They're supporters of our military and first responders. They support Mighty Oaks. And the product is absolutely incredible. You have to try it. Go to BioPro, and if you enter the code BioPro30, you'll get 30% off. That's not my code. I actually don't want a code. I want you to get 30% off. And so enter BioPro30, and you get 30% off. Get yours today.
Well, you've done so you've done some consulting, I know, and some TV, and then, man, I've seen, what is this? I feel like I'm going to come with you on this show only for this beard. Mud, Sweat, and Beards.
Mud, Sweat, and Beards. Yeah.
Bro, that was pretty cool.
Right on.
What's the other one? First Man Out. You did First Man Out. Is that out yet? Your episode?
Yeah, it's floating out there somewhere. Okay. I'm not sure exactly where, but I think it might be on Hulu or Amazon. That was a fun one. That's where I raced a guy through the Amazon jungle with just a machete. And made boats and made a bow, shot an electric eel, ate that, built shelters. I mean,
yeah, that one.
The thing with like the survival reality, like TV, if you want like a fun adventure, like they'll give you a fun adventure.
Give you one.
Yeah. So even on Mud, Sweat, and Beards, like, being in Iceland and catching puffins that are an endangered species, but not in that culture.
Yeah.
And then eating those, and I enjoy it. I love the opportunities to kind of go to unique places and survive there. I mean, I brought Cardi B out into the woods.
Bro, I haven't heard this yet. Yes. How have I missed this? What was that like?
Oh man, it was. I'll be 100% honest. Yeah. So her team reached out and said she has a show called Cardi Tries, and we want you to come out and do the Earth Day special. And I was like, yeah, I'm down for it. So we went to the remote Californian hills, basically this kind of like studio kind of terrain area where they do commercials and parks and recreations episodes. And she was nice. I mean, she knew who I was. She knew my kids. And the biggest production I've ever seen, there was like donut trucks and coffee trucks, hundreds of people walking around. And I'm there with like a sheepskin vest and a bow being like, okay, this is it, And it was a fun experience, and she's quite the character. But,
for sure. Yeah,
had a good time.
That's good, man. Yeah. Anything else coming up, like projects that you can or speak on?
There's a couple of filming projects that I'll be doing. This is kind of like close to. So I just wrapped up the first season of my podcast called Rescue, which is really about. I like to call it like the true heroes, first responders, people that have taken a 5-hour class in, CPR and kind of address that one unique chance. Police officers, firemen, everyday civilians, none of this movie star sort of stuff, real heroes. And we kind of,
the unsung heroes.
Yeah. And, I tell their stories and kind of highlight who they are in some of these unique experiences. So that just kind of wrapped up, and the show might be a little bit another version of that, kind of more in the live, if you will, kind of recalling that. But I just did some stuff with Wired Magazine, and I'm going to be doing this kind of like documentary on Stone Tools, from like Stone Tools all the way up to AI.
So, I love it, dude. Yeah, that's going to be cool.
Yeah, it'd be a cool little thing as far as like technology, but I really just kind of enjoy filming my own stuff. Yeah. Where it's just like a small camera, bag of batteries, and then I can walk 5 days in the bush and just start filming. Yeah. That's a good time.
Yeah. That's awesome. So when we're talking, like it's like, it's obvious. Like you light up I can just see like an energy that comes. Right. What is it for you? Like, what is the wilderness to you? That's probably a super deep question, but I guess I'm expecting a deep answer. Like you're just a veteran and no doubt have your traumas. I mean, what is it for you when you get out and escape and get out in the wild by yourself?
Yeah, I think the natural environment is the ultimate truth. It won't lie, it won't cheat, it won't steal. Whatever it is, it is. So if it rains, it's raining. There's no deception. It's not trying to trick you or fool you or manipulate you. And I think in this day and age, there's a lot of that amongst, people. And I think when you kind of retreat to that natural world, you can escape all that and get the ultimate form of truth. Like if that tree is growing, the tree is growing. There's no deception. There's no kind of like manipulation about it. So it gives you an essence of like purity, simplicity, and more importantly, the freedom. And I think for me, going out into that natural environment, it is the freest place to be. It gives you the opportunity to kind of explore things, to be curious about what's over the next hilltop, what's around that riverbend. Because even though maybe somebody has seen it 1,000 times, if it's brand new to you, it's a brand new discovery. So I always like to say I discover stuff all the time. Brand new day, discover something new. But it's the ultimate piece. It gives me, and I know it gives a lot of other people just the opportunity to kind of reconnect into that kind of natural world and just kind of live simply, live easily.
Yeah.
And kind of block out all the stuff that could be, not necessarily block out, but create a new path, a new solution to maybe overcoming some of those issues from the past.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like I have to feel like the hardship and the challenge and the just roughing it will allow you to almost see the beauty of things like in their real state?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's a big truth to that where most survival adventures that you do are self-induced. You get to set the parameters. How much food do I want to bring? Do I want to bring this? Do I want to bring that? And I think for me, there's a lot of times where I want to make this the worst time possible. And then just the smallest little triumphs, whether it's making a fire or finding a great spot for a shelter or finding a water source, it's just immense. It's like, holy cow. So when you create that really extreme situation, you're creating it. You ultimately get to kind of really marvel in those simple moments and those triumphs. But it's a little bit different for everybody. Like I said, when if I go camping with, my sons or my girlfriend, that's kind of a lie. They've been in some pretty extreme situations with me, but I
gotta imagine your kids probably do well. You probably stick them in the woods and they'd probably be okay. Huh?
They'd be okay. They've grown up, taking apart deer and breaking stone. And I mean, my oldest, we brought home hundreds of pounds of bison, and he pulls out the table, starts cutting it up, and he just, all right, we're going to do this for dinner one night, because he likes to cook as well. So, I mean, they definitely have some skills, but more importantly, they have skills that I don't have, which makes it a great little kind of reciprocity and kind of respect. Like, I need help with this. How do I do this? How do I do that? When it comes to like computers, or like, your teacher's writing me this. What does this even mean? He can decipher it, but it's good.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
And you teach this, beyond your kids now. You have paleo track survival. Is that the correct name?
Yeah. Yeah. So I run an outdoor school, wilderness self-reliance school. And I bring folks from all walks of life, professional athletes, moms, dads, pilots, doctors, just on some pretty unique adventures. And I kind of cater those courses specifically to them. I don't do a lot of group courses where there's 10, 15 people. You kind of lose out on that intimacy of a one-on-one, or like, husband and wife. So I like to bring them out and say, what are you looking to achieve? Are you looking to go on an extreme adventure? Are you looking to work on skills, a little bit more self-reliance, emergency stuff? And we kind of have a couple conversations, and I build a program specifically for them to what they want to address. And then we go out and we tackle the backcountry.
Bro, we got to do a resilient.
Yeah.
We got to do a resilient one. We'll come out and
absolutely
freaking film it. You can show me.
Absolutely.
That'd be amazing, dude.
We can totally do that. And you'd have a blast.
Oh, man.
Just whatever you think will be completely like stripped away, and it'd be like, holy wow. Yeah. It's awesome. I love bringing outdoorsmen out, because they already have a little bit of ground truth. They've been outside. They've been through some of that. And then, we kind of Like, what'd you bring? I brought a knife. I brought this. All right, we put all that in your truck. Well, what are we bringing? Nothing. They're like, oh my God. And
that's amazing, dude.
So I always say the goal is to walk in with absolutely nothing and then walk out with everything.
Yeah.
So
I have no idea. I have no doubt my mind would be blown. I mean, survival, preparedness, I do okay. True, like bushcraft, I mean, my mind would be blown, I'm sure.
You've got the beard. You already have
the beard's there. Yeah. It's in my blood.
It's in the blood. It's in the blood. It's a history, man. You take a punch in bushcraft.
That's right. That's it. What would you say if you were giving somebody like one key, thing about bushcraft, or what should everybody know how to do?
Yeah, I think everyone should definitely know how to build a shelter. Okay. And that could be a macro or a micro shelter, because typically you will die from exposure first, whether it's in the cold, the heat, the rain, fog, whatever. You should know how to find a way to insulate yourself, get warm, so you don't ultimately, die, if you will. Yeah. And a lot of people think shelters need to be these great, elaborate things. I always say be careful, because what you see on social media is just one snapshot. And that guy probably has a saw, an axe, a pound of bacon, some beers and potatoes, and he's displaying a shelter, but calories go in, and you have to build a shelter that allows you to ultimately preserve your calories. So with that, you have to go out and actually experience this. And how you experience this is go out this summer and sleep one night in the bush with absolutely nothing, just the clothes on your back.
Look out.
And then from there, you start to progress. All right, what can I do after one night? How can I make last night better? Can I give myself a thermal layer from the ground? Can I give myself a little bit of a wind block or a little bit of cover? And you start to build upon that first night of ground truth. You're like, man, I shivered all night. Cool. What can I do to make better? And you start to build and build and build and build until you actually formulate the right shelter based off of you, the environment that you're in, to get through not one night, maybe 2 nights, or maybe 3 nights, but you have to do it. You have to actually go outside. It's just like if you're just planking rounds until you actually throw that full caliber in there and you're actually shooting your rifle or your pistol, or you're training for, like, you actually have to do it. Like, how many people run a marathon before they run a marathon? You should always do it, so you know what your body feels like at mile 20 and then mile 25. It's the same thing when it comes to learning these skills. You actually have to get out there, do it, and really put yourself in that extreme spot until the point where, you want to stop right before failure, before you would, die or dehydrate or something like that. So you got to get out there and get the ground truth.
Just do it. I love the ground truth, man.
Right on, man.
I love the ground truth, bro. So still in the ground
Take
truth.
it.
But you have some other resources that people, maybe they can't come to Payload Tracks. You've written a couple books.
Yes, sir.
We have Scavenger and Earth Roamer. Your first, those are out, correct?
Yes, sir.
And those are in the survival space. Are they teaching more? Or are they?
Yeah, it's kind of a mix of both. So Scavenger was written after my heart attack, and that was kind of like how people can go about and change their lifestyle. Like, it's kind of a more primal approach about sleeping and eating and saying no and finding value points and get rid of things that aren't of value. What does it mean to have sex? Like, all these things that are very primal in nature, and what they mean to us, and how we should not overlook those things or forget those things. So sleeping, I always like, man, that's number one. And so many people, they live by this mentality: when you're tired, you just have to keep going, which is good at the right time. But sleeping is healing. Sleeping is recovery.
Yeah.
Sleeping is important. So if you have to take a nap, you shouldn't be shunned or ridiculed for taking an hour-long nap. Sleeping is healing. And if you need time to heal, then you should do so. Foods and grounding. So it's kind of more of a philosophy on the things that I did to recover all naturally from my heart attack. One of the chapters in there was called Earth Roaming, which gave spawn to my second book, which is my philosophies on, my adventures. And some of them are, nature provides all. You should go out into the bush with no plan whatsoever, which seems very counterproductive to everything that, I kind of grew up in the military, but it's having a plan, but a loose plan, being open to new opportunities, because if we just walk the same trail as everybody else, we just miss out on so much. So it's kind of a metaphor in the aspect of be open to new things, new opportunities, pick your head up, and don't be afraid to kind of go a different path. So Earth Roaming is, there's a lot of lessons. There's a lot of kind of specifics I talk about into survival. But my third book, Wild Wisdom, which comes out in August 6th, is the survival manual for a lot of folks. It's kind of that. These are the knowledge, skills, and abilities you need to know to have a working knowledge, kind of a beginner's to an intermediate's knowledge, and backcountry wilderness self-reliance.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna have to get Scavenger. You piqued my interest with some of the Scavenger.
I'll send you guys a bunch of all the books.
I mean, of course, I tell everybody here, hey man, go out and get all the books because this, it's pretty amazing stuff. But you mentioned a couple things like the grounding and food and I don't know if you get into deliberate cold exposure or heat, the contrast of heat and cold on your body. And anyways, I'll nerd out on that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
man. So
you'll enjoy it if you. I mean, I go into fastings and just just all of it, and all of that stuff. Goddamn, I'm breaking.
You're good, man. You're good.
But all that stuff was my approach to recover.
Yeah,
my heart and my body, because when I did have my heart attack, I could barely make it out of the hospital. I couldn't make it a block around where my house was. And I was like, this is so many people. Your life is over. It's changed. You're gonna have to be so cognizant of this. And I'm like, there's no way. You have lost your mind. I went to the rawest place that I could go to. That was the backcountry. Healed there. Came up with these formulas, and I call it scavenger because you kind of have to live like a scavenger. I took ideas and concepts from different people and culture, and just like a scavenger bird would eat the carcass of something and apply it to its own health going forward. I did the same thing with ideas and concepts. I kind of scavenged my old ways of life that I knew were good and just compiled them all into my approach going forward. More importantly, I wrote the book specifically for like 100 pages because not a lot of people read.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to write a book that's down and dirty, in your face. It's 100 pages. You can sit down and read it in one day. Be like, you know what? I love this. I'm going to read it again. I'm going to pass it off to my brother, my sister, who could possibly use some of this, and move on. I'm going to take this. So it's not 500 pages, 800 pages. This is what you need to know, that bluff bottom line up front.
I love it.
Right.
That's awesome. And then Wild Wisdom comes out in August 6th.
It is available pre-order now. And for those that do pre-order, I'm going to be running kind of a contest. If you put a pre-order in, and I see the receipts, and the publisher kind of tracks who does. I'll put all those names into a hat, and three folks will join me on a backcountry.
Look out.
Donny Dust experience.
Now we're talking, bro.
It'll be a good time.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I'll be right on.
Sweet. So what else? How can people follow you? I mean, you're on Instagram and some socials, right?
Yes. So the easiest way to, get a hold of me for a class, or, if you find a weird artifact and you want my input, just DonnyDust.com. That kind of has really everything and anything, the best ways to contact me. But I am on all forms of social media. I'm active on some, I'm not like a routine poster of things, but you can reach out. But more importantly, I do like to respond to people.
Okay.
That's kind of my thing. Whether it's, something on YouTube or Instagram, whatever the case may be. I think there's a lot of people that have a certain kind of presence in the world. And I think if you want to be a good leader, you should lead by example.
Yeah.
And for me, if somebody sends me a comment or, hey, can I get your input on this? I try to carve out some time to address those folks. And I really do that because sometimes people could be struggling. They could be looking for advice. And I think it's kind of our duty, if we are in front of that kind of social media influence, but not in that kind of influential sort of way, but leadership position. It's important to, show appreciation for people that maybe watch a video or somebody that leaves a comment or a great point about this, to be able to give some of that feedback. So I can't get to everybody because otherwise I'd be sitting there for hours. But if I post something, I usually hang around for a little bit and try to respond to people. So don't be afraid. If you got questions, you can send it through DonnyDust.com or something on social media. I am totally reachable.
That's awesome, man.
Human. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. You see a lot of this, a lot of people post, but they don't respond to comments, or they might have somebody else responding for them. And sometimes that's necessary. Absolutely. Right. But you're like taking the responsibility, like I'm going to
It's me.
It's me. I'm gonna, lead on the front end.
Yeah.
This concept is, me and my wife talk about this a lot. We call it a frontline king.
Interesting.
You're on the front lines.
Yeah.
And you're doing the work. And
Mhm.
you're the ones there that's actually working and coordinating and communicating. And we see that in our old cultures. Our kings were on the front lines.
Yeah.
Now we've advanced into this. The people that run our world have no idea what the front lines look like.
Oh,
And so the power of a frontline king is super powerful. So
Absolutely,
it's cool, man. I like that.
Yeah. That conversation we could probably talk about.
Yeah,
that.
we'll do another episode on that for sure. Yeah. I'd love to actually, man. Leadership is huge for me personally and for the Resilient brand. So
absolutely, it's number one, man. Lead by example.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about while we're on? Steer people towards.
I just want to give a big shout out to you guys because I kind of know what you guys are formulating here and what you're providing, and I think for veterans, first responders, to have a source, to have that leadership is extremely powerful. And however I can support that in the days going ahead, there's a quiet bunch out there, and I say that it's time to get a little bit more. A little bit more vocal and maybe some of the issues or traumas somebody could be facing. We need to help each other out, and that you guys are doing that, and I greatly respect that.
Yeah,
truly,
absolutely.
So my hat goes off to you.
I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
Definitely. All right. Well, before we close, I got a couple gifts for you, man.
Oh,
so one of our sponsors is Midas Gold Group.
Oh,
so
wow.
this is the American Eagle. It's silver. I'm sure you can imagine. Especially you living off the grid sometimes. Like you can barter with this because you don't need a credit card or any type of electronics, right? Man. So this is from Midas Gold Group. They're American owned. The owner's a Marine, James Clark.
Okay.
So he's a veteran and he loves what we do as well. So they support us. We're super grateful for them.
This is beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And then Gators will get you a pair of sunglasses. I know again you're minimalist guy, but they have these blast shields that are shooting glasses. So man, when you go and shoot, we'll get you a pair of blast shields from Gators. And then I got some Mighty Oaks. Of course, we love Mighty Oaks here. Got a Mighty Oaks swag bag.
Oh man.
It's got a hat in here. It's got our 3 little books. We call our 3 little books, Path to Resiliency, The Truth About PTSD, some good resources.
Absolutely.
You might just pass on to somebody.
Sure. And
then of course the founder of Mighty Oaks, Chad Robichaux, we got you a copy of Saving Aziz signed by Chad.
Oh, right.
So this is the story. Chad goes and rescues his interpreter that ends up turning into a rescue of 17,000 people. So copy of Saving Aziz for you.
Wow.
And then of course a lifelong friendship, bro, and connection.
Absolutely, man.
Because it's very clear that we are aligned in what we're doing. So
absolutely. Well, with all of this, like kind of mentioned earlier, I have a lot of things coming for you guys as well. Unfortunately,
and they can't travel with your cool gear, bro.
Yeah. Plan. They get TSA's pulled me out so many times.
Oh, I know it, man.
Random things. So I think they've got a photo of me somewhere. But
they do.
They definitely do. But I will absolutely reciprocate because stone is strong.
Bro.
It can be carved, it can be shaped, but those who wield it ultimately kind of know its true power. So, man, I appreciate your time, your effort, your energies, and everything you guys do.
Yeah. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, amigo.
Yeah. Appreciate it, man. Yeah. What's up, guys? Sean here, one of your hosts at Resilient. Thank you for watching the show. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any bonus content and future episodes. We have some amazing guests that share their story of resilience, and you won't want to miss it.